Bzzz. Hello, my beekeeping indie game lovers! It is Literary Rose, and I am shouting, and I am also with I Dream of Indie. We're here to celebrate World Bee Day with my review of APICO on the PC. APICO is a beekeeping simulation game where you collect, breed, and conserve bees, all at a relaxed and lighthearted pace. Developed by TNgineers and published by Whitethorn Games, APICO has you exploring a sandbox world filled with trees, bees, and some humans in between. APICO is both game and secretly learning. Read up on and figure out how to take care of our pollinating companions with a touch of fantasy mixed in for good measure, and all within the game. In terms of story, you have returned to the islands of your family heritage to take up beekeeping once again, following the guides of your pun-loving grandfather and the support of your grandmother and fellow beekeeping neighbors. Throughout our time on the islands, we rediscover bee species, crossbreed to create new species, and return the bee balance of the world. There's also a touch of Minecraft and other crafting open world games, in which you craft tools to obtain materials from the world around you, such as wood and rocks. You can also craft yourself a little home, although this part of the game seems to be a less intensive process than perhaps other crafting games. It's more like a cute extra if you want to have a home. You can also be a forest hermit, which, looking back now, I might just do on a new playthrough. Now, at first, despite the absolutely charming pixel art and soothing musical accompaniment of APICO, I was a bit intimidated. The game very early on and very quickly introduces you to your various guidebooks on beekeeping, which at first glance appeared to be pages upon pages of information. I'm not one to hesitate at detailed instructions, but sometimes if games like this have lots of information at the front, I start to worry that this might be a bit too much of a big brain strategy sim for my simple mind to follow. However, I was happy to discover that each page is a light amount of information on the topic at hand, such as tapping trees for resin or crossbreeding bees, and brimming full of the best bee puns and pop culture references. I laughed more times than I can count reading these manuals, and even just remembering them brings a smile to my face. The writing is superb. So what shall you be doing as a beekeeper? Well, let me tell you. You break down or break into hives to collect honeycombs, bees, and create queens, which doesn't result in your character being stung every which way to Sunday. At first, I thought this was a side effect of my glorious headgear, but actually, it's a much needed pause from the reality of disturbing a beehive. Let's just pretend our character exudes bee-calming pheromones. You can sell the honeycomb, or more importantly, use it to craft some of the many items you will need to venture forth in your family keeper legacy. The bees you collect from hives are instrumental for starting your own colonies in your apiaries and try your hand at crossbreeding. There are common bees, uncommon bees, forest bees, verge bees, and rocky bees. The last two of which I'm pretty sure are fantasy species unless I'm really behind on my apiculture knowledge. Besides your beekeeping activities, you can also sell your products to local vendors and purchase much needed items from them in return, such as a bottling facility to sell your apicola, one of the products you craft using rainwater and honey. If I had to levy just one tiny criticism at APICO, it would be that the way you make money could be explained a little bit more. I didn't realize for a bit what I could sell, and I was afraid to sell my things in case I needed them for crafting an item or workstation. But once I became brave and I decided to take the risk, since I needed the money to buy the aforementioned bottling station, I realized which products I could just toss at sellers to rein in the rubies. Yes, the currency is called rubies. My experience with APICO was in the single-player mode, although there is an option for multiplayer, specifically allowing you to beekeep with 4 other players no matter what console or program you are using to play the game. Unfortunately, I did not find any other players to match up with, but I am very excited to test this out. There's also a little modding community and a built-in mod support for this game, so if you want to mess around with that, go for it. The developers seem to have made it easy for anyone to mod the game and share that with the community, although of course they cannot guarantee there won't be issues or hiccups with these different mods. Mod at your own risk. APICO is not a difficult game, just a detailed one. And thankfully, they've got an explanation for just about anything you are unsure about. Whenever I was confused or forgot what I needed to do, it was as simple as pressing G on my keyboard to pull up my handy dandy guide and get myself situated. You can play APICO using keyboard or controller, both of which I tested and worked with no issues. I personally prefer using keyboard and mouse, but go for whichever method is best for you. I played the Steam version, but it will also be available on itch.io, GameJolt, Epic Game Store, and Humble Bundle. Don't have a PC strong enough? Simultaneous console releases will be out shortly, so keep your eyes peeled. I was so delighted to see the abundance of settings and accessibility options that APICO has to offer. For settings, we have the standards and more here. You can adjust the volume, you can turn B-Sync on and off, you can turn full screen on and off, etc. It was actually pretty cool to see that you could also adjust when the game would autosave, which the most frequent appears to be every 5 minutes. For accessibility, APICO offers so many options, many of which I have never seen in a game before. You can make the mechanisms for moving things go automatically. These mechanisms are in reference to the little mini-games connected to certain tasks. For instance, when you're using the sawmill to chop up logs, you have a little meter to drag up and down as if you were sawing. So you can make that automatic if you prefer. You can turn on walking through trees so your movement is not as impeded. You can have tooltips always expanded, make all crossbeating result in mutations, increase the contrast for the slots and text, and engage focus mode, which leaves only one menu open at a time, which can be very useful if you're overwhelmed, since at times I had about 4 or more menus up at once. As I mentioned, APICO has a delightful and colorful pixel art style, and we see this from a top-down perspective, which is perfect and much needed to balance with the many menus you can and will probably have open at the same time. You can also move these menus around as you like, creating a lovely little flow of screens as you work on completing a task. My final note for this game would be the music, which again reminded me of Minecraft, but perhaps a little more gentle. The background music switches between quiet nature sounds to calming orchestral pieces, whose titles are announced to you when you play on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. The music was the perfect touch in maintaining the calm tone of this game, so you can go at your pace. There are so many little details I still have yet to mention. The clear statement of character pronouns, the playful character dialogue, and the developer's commitment to supporting bee conservation efforts, which they have a dedicated page on. They are also donating a portion of the proceeds for this game to organizations dedicated to caring for and conserving bees, whom are integral to the planet and in need of our help. If it is within your ability, take a gander at their page and consider donating to this worthy cause. Or, buy the game, which is not just fun, but will support our beautiful buzzing friends. I adore APICO, and I would like to award it with my Golden Genie Lamp Award. This game is an exemplar of the simulation and crafting open world genre, taking it further with its accessibility options and ties to real-world issues. The gameplay is fantastic, it's addictive, and the team behind this have a brilliant sense of humor. I am eager to jump back in and see all that there is to discover, and I hope you do too.
Thank you so much for supporting clickbait free independent content here at I Dream of Indie. We couldn't possibly make it without our brave indie warriors and legends. At the Indie Warriors tier, we have Bill, Christian Cruz, Adriana Amato, CJR, PSC, Julian Colbus, Jesse, Ray Lynn, Marky Mint, Dave Hart, Peekaboo, and Lex Noyle. And the brave indie legends include Jen Rose, Larkison, Mitchell Hall, Peach, Skepticism, Seacoil, Nathan Moore, Chris Jackson, Mr. W, Blue Francis 14, The Beefarinis, Business Cody, Carmen Red, Jace Glover, King of the Hatch, and Ophidian Mind. Thank you so much for all that you do for independent developers, publishers, and for I Dream of Indie. Head on down to the description box below so you can learn how to become an indie warrior or legend yourself, get access to exclusive content, and help us bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming.